Hey YouTube, Kira Qualia here, bringing you all my future card Buddyfight Thunder Empire deck profile for September 2021. I still really do love updating the Buddyfight decks on my channel. I know a lot of you have been requesting that I continue to do the deck profiles, so as long as I have interest in the particular decks, I'll continue to do the deck profile updates. And the latest one comes down to Thunder Empire. This was actually the one I got the most requests for on the channel. This is for support post Buddy Ragnarok. We actually got support Beyond the Ages and Buddy Ragnarok released around the same time last year, and with it plenty of new support for the Thunder Empire deck. So just liking to keep this deck up to date. I also wanted to keep it up to date in terms of availability of the cards for people looking to build this deck. I know a lot of the older cards for Thunder Empire are definitely very expensive, so that means much more difficult to build in terms of that. So we'll be focusing on cards that are readily available for the Thunder Empire deck. So let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So to start off, our flag being Thunder Emperor's Fang, and our buddy monster is Demon Lord Dragon Bots Revival Buddy. The Thunder Emperor's Fang flag specifies that your initial hand becomes 7, your initial gauge becomes 1, and your initial life becomes 11. So very easy setup for the hand cards, giving you a good amount of cards to use. The low gauge is no problem since we have a good number of different ways to build up the gauge in this deck with all the different cards we run. And our buddy being the boss monster of the deck, which is Demon Lord Dragon Bots Revival Buddy, which in addition to the buddy spot, we are also running 3 additional copies in the actual main deck. With this card, its call cost being paid 2 gauge, and during your turn, this card cannot leave the field or be rested, and its abilities cannot be nullified by your opponent's card effects, and it cannot be destroyed. So a very strong card in and of itself right then and there. And when this card attacks, for this turn, this card gets triple attack if you have 4 or less life. For this turn, this card gets plus 10,000 power, critical +1, and hextuple attack instead. And this ability only activates once per turn. Also having penetrate with 13,000 power and a critical of 2. This is a very dangerous card. This card just basically shows us its overthrow that it originally had with Barlbat's Drago Royale in the form of its Revival Buddy. And not being overthrow just makes it that much more scary, because having 6 attacks in total is the total of 12 damage, which should be the majority of many decks you go up against for this card to combat against. And just having to be at low life can easily be achieved playing defensively and going then on the offense with just this card alone. For the additional monsters that we run for, I would say, some setup for boss monsters, I also run 2 Thunder Emperor Sun Dragon Ball Dragon and 2 Thunder Emperor Cavalry Dragon Drum Bunker Dragon. So with these cards being the additional setup, I know their overturn copies are very expensive. That's why I decided to go with their Blazing Overclash copies instead. With these 2 cards giving you more and more setup, with Ball Dragon being able to count as a Darkness Dragon world and also a Star Dragon world, gives you additional benefits from having the many different worlds you use in your Thunder Empire deck. And then with your Thunder Emperor Cavalry Dragon Drum Bunker Dragon, having the option when your opponent's card attacks, you can change the target to this card, having double attack in Soul Guard, and also putting 2 cards from your drop zone into Soul for its call cost, saves on gauge, but also gives you a card for your opponent to basically attack into. And also you choose Magic World, Dungeon World, and Hero World, and this turn this card's name becomes that card on the field, with the counter, like I said, being for Star Dragon World and Darkness Dragon World. Different worlds definitely coming in handy for many of the different cards we run in the Thunder Empire deck. I also run 1 additional Sovereign War Dragon Lord Bots the Infinity. This is just another easy setup card for bots, and also being able to deal damage to your opponent. If you didn't want to run this copy of this card in the deck, you can always put in your 4th copy of Bots Revival Buddy instead of this. It's just a preference point in the deck for the additional option, having the damage you can deal and destroying cards on your opponent's field for this option of a card. For the additional setup of different monsters, I also run 3 Thunder Flare Blue Bat. This card is, like I said, more setup with this card. Not yellow, I'm blue. When this card enters the field, by a card effect, you put the top card of your deck into your gauge and gain 1 life, and then draw 2 cards. And not yellow, I'm blue only activates once per turn. So it is a great setup card, just giving you resources to use. And its last card effect is when this card attacks, if a card with bots in its name is on your field. For this turn, it gets critical +2 and double attack, being a size 0 means that you can have a full field setup with your size 2 bots and your size 1 additional monster, and also having blue bot on the field. Very, very useful for that pressure alone, having 1 critical, but the additional 3 power and the additional 2 plus critical power can definitely come in handy when you have that initial setup, when you have bots on the field. For more setup, also going with our size 0 monsters, I also run 3 Black Dragon Nam. At the end of the battle, that this card, if you have 2 or more different world cards on the field, choose and use 1 Thunder Empire monster in your drop zone, and you may destroy this card. If you do, put the top card of your deck into your gauge and put the chosen card into your hand. So recycle power with all the different monsters we're running. If your opponent does destroy Demon Lord Dragon bots, Revival Buddy, it doesn't have Soul Guard, so it can easily be done on their turn. So you just want ways to recycle it back to your hand. That's where this card comes in handy. You can rely on Blue Bat for the actual resources from your deck, but you can rely on Nam for giving you cards back from the drop zone. With the last of our size 0 monsters being Thunder Flares Bara Balo. When this card enters the field by a card effect, destroy up to 2 cards on your opponent's field, and this is the destruction card size 0. And if this card attacks with a monster with bots is on the field, for this turn this card gets critical +3 and penetrate. This ability only activates once per turn, and at the end of the battle that this card attacked, you may return it from the field to the hand. So not only that, you can call this card to your center and then attack with it, returning it, so then you can attack with your item on the field while still having both cards on your left and right available to attack into your opponent. For some of the lower number monsters we run in the deck, I also run 2 right arm of the War Dragon Lord, Saint Holy Sword Lightning Fencer. This one, you pay 1 life, put the top card of your deck into its soul. If a monster with bots is on your field, this card's size on the field is reduced by 2. And if 3 or more different Thunder Empire monsters are in your drop zone, this card gets power plus 10,000, defense 10,000. And then if 6 or more, this card gets critical +2 and triple attack. Another pressure card relying on what Thunder Empire is meant to do, and that is have many different named cards, whether it be on the field or in the drop zone. So I only like to run 2 of this card. It can be easily set up with all the other size 0 options we already spoke of in the deck already. So I feel like that's all you need once you have this set up on the field ready to go. Also running 2 of the new Chibi Panda Revival Buddy. This is a search card for bots, with this hand having the specification if a monster with bots is on your field, the size of this card is reduced by 1. And counter, let's do it. During your turn, you may put this card from your field or hand to the drop zone. If you do, call up to 1 bots in its card name and up to 1 monster with Saint in its card name from your deck by paying their call cost, and shuffle your deck. We only use this ability once per turn. So you can just set up your Saint Lightning Fencer and then also your bots Revival Buddy that much more easily with this card. If you wanted to up the number of Chibi Panda Revival Buddy we run in the deck, you can always drop down the number of some of the other size 0s, whether it be 1 Barbello and 1 Nam, and then putting the additional 4 copies of Chibi Panda Revival Buddy into the deck. I also run 2 Operative Sphere. This is a Dragon Empire card, but if you have additional different worlds on the field, which with all the cards we've gone over so far being Danger, Darkness Dragon, and Dungeon World, you can easily accomplish this and then just gain additional gauge, life, and draw power with this card. I also run 2 Connect Ninja Tomonoshin. This is the Katana World card for the deck. When another monster enters your field, look at the top 3 cards of your deck, put up to 1 Thunder Empire from among them into your hand, put the rest on the bottom of the deck in any order. So more search power. Relying on this and Operative Sphere and all the different cards being different worlds so far is a big plus in and of its own. And to finish up some of the monsters, I also run 2 Misfiring Demon Globes. When another Thunder Empire monster enters the field, put the top card of your deck into your gauge and draw a card. It only activates once per turn, and when this card attacks for this turn, a card on your field gets critical +1. Being able to give bots Revival Buddy critical +1, and then on top of it have Hextuple attack is what's so scary about this card as well. Being able to then rely on that for that pressure is what I like to run globes for. With the last of the monsters in the deck being the 1 Legend World Arc Hammer Knight Bronze. If you have an item equipped, this card cannot be nullified if it's attacking alone. And also, you choose an item on your field, you may pay 1 gauge and discard this card from your hand. If you do, for this turn, the chosen card attack cannot be nullified. So one of this card comes into tech choice when running our item, which we are running 3 Thunder Flare Fist Sun Blaze, the newest item for the deck. You put 2 Thunder Empire from your drop zone into its soul and pay in 1 gauge. All cards with Thunder Flare and its name on your field cannot be returned to the hand. Their abilities cannot be nullified by their opponent's effects. If a monster with bots on your field, this card gets plus 10,000 power. And counter during each player's attack phase, call up to one size, one or less Thunder Empire from your drop zone. And you may only use the ability once per turn. So we're not running good majority of the Thunder Flare. We do have Blue Bat, which counts as a Thunder Flare in the deck. So there's always that option with this card. But we mostly use it for the power boost, and then also just the option to call all the different size 1 Thunder Empire monsters we run in the deck. Also, the plus 10,000 power just adds for more pressure, being able to hit over a good majority, whether our opponent's transformed or just playing defense with some of their monsters in the center. That's it for the monsters and items. Moving on now to the spells. Probably one of the best spells in the deck is Storm Spirits. You drop a hand card, look at top 5 cards of your deck, put the 2 Thunder Empire monsters from among them into your hand, and then put the rest into your gauge. So this makes up for the additional plus hand cost we get with Thunder Emperor's Fangs being our flag, being able to just drop one of the other hand cards we get, and then just build up our gauge from there, and also add the essential Thunder Empire monsters we need from our deck to our hand. And just a 4 of this card, so once per turn, but just having 4 of it means we can at least guarantee opening this card up quite early in our hand to use. I also run 2 Buddy the Party. This is the card you want to utilize if you're running both Drum and Ball in the deck along with bots. With this card, you put the top 2 cards of your deck into your gauge by paying 2 life, then call up to 1 monster with Drum from your monsters and 1 with Ball drawing its card name, and then up to 1 monster with bots' card name from your drop zone to separate areas by pairing their call costs, and they become size 0 on the field. So we have all the essential cards to run with this. The Drum, Ball, and then bots. Having this setup just means we have the different world setup ready to go, and then also the additional option of the multiple attacks you can get with bots being able to pay the life to then essentially be at the low life you need for this card to use. I also run 2 Thunder X Attract. You pay 1 life with this card. Choose and use one of the following 2. You only cast Thunder Attract once per turn. You pay 1 gauge. If you do, put up to 1 Thunder Empire item from your deck into your hand. Or you can put up to 1 Impact or Dragon World monster from your drop zone to your hand. So whether you add the Impact or your item, it's why also running 3 of the item can come in handy. Not only will this card lower your life, but can give you the item needed to equip onto to use. One of my favorite cards to use after using Buddy the Party is also Warlord Sword Release. With this card, you pay 1 gauge and 2 life. Draw cards equal to the number of different world names on your field. You will use Warlord Sword Released once per turn. So having the option with Ball and Drum to choose different world names means you can have those 3 monsters on the field along with all the other different world names we're already running to definitely want to at least be able to draw 3 cards every time you use this card on the field. It should be the standard with having a Dragon World, then 2 additional worlds of all the different worlds we're running in the deck. For the other spells I run, I also run 2 Blissful Sun. This card, you may only cast this card during your turn if a Thunder Empire monster's on the field. Put the top 2 cards of your deck in your gauge. Then look at your gauge and put up to 1 card from among them into your hand. So this is just more search power, relying on the heavy gauge buildup we can use with a good majority of cards, including Storm Spirits, then being able to add what we need, particularly to our hand. For more of the defensive spells in the deck, I also run 4 Arc Dragon Shield. You may only cast this during your turn or your opponent's turn if you do not have a monster on the center. If you have a Thunder Empire on your field, you pay 1 gauge, nullify the attack, and draw a card. So the draw power means you could potentially draw into more Arc Dragon Shields to defend against your opponents. Why I like running 4 of this card, so you always have that, and you should always have gauge available with all the buildup we can use in the deck. For our other card to guard with, I run 3 Ball Thunder High Guard. You nullify the attack. Then if a card with Thunder Flare and its name on your field, put up to 1 spell with Dragon Shield from your drop zone to your hand. So another way to recycle Arc Dragon Shield. This shield definitely does play high in the fact if you were to have your blue bat on the field, which more than not you can have when you are ready to use this shield. Just remember to place it on a spot where then you can utilize your Arc Dragon Shield also. With the last of the cards in the deck, just being 2 of the Thunder Heavenly Lance X Tempest Buster Extreme. You may want to cast this if a monster with bots is on your field, pay 2 gauge, and stand all Thunder Empire on your field, and you get another attack phase. Now this is definitely your go-to finish card. Being able to gain that additional attack phase with all your monsters you run, it's just the pressure you need against your opponent. It's such an easy gauge cost, and having bots with the additional criticals set with some of our other cards in the deck is what makes this card definitely scary. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoy the video. Like I said, I still love making the updates to the future card Buddyfight decks. I hope you all still enjoy them too. If you have any other requests you'd like to see on the channel, just comment down below and I'll definitely look into them. But as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. And Kira Qualia out.